Yes, of course, there is a part 2. I really hope this video intrigues your curiosity just as much as part 1 did, sitting at 1.4 million views at the time of this recording. So let's get straight into it. Number 1, don't side cap. Believe it or not, there is something that actually exists within the graffiti scene called side busting or side capping. Generally, it's considered side capping someone when you put your tag right next to a really good piece in order to get noticed or get featured in someone's photo that they may have taken. Another example of side capping is when you put your tag right below or above someone else's tag, when there is already somewhere else on that surface that you could tag, like there is no reason for you to tag so close to that tag. Some riders take side busting really seriously, so be sure if there's other spots you can leave your tag on, leave a little gap away from other tags. Number 2, don't use someone else's paint. If a friend of yours said you can use a little bit of their color to fix up your mistake or whatnot, by all means, use a little bit of their paint. Don't use the rest of the can up unless you intend to let them know you're going to use the rest of that paint, or you plan to pay them back or give them a can of paint in the near future. It's kind of a dick move, man. Don't do that. Number 3, don't diss people's work for no reason. If you just want to be a smartass and cap someone's graffiti just for the sake of capping someone, make sure you have a good enough reason or excuse to cap other graffiti writers, because you never know who might come around the corner and see you dissing someone's work. It could end up being a bad time, or you could be capping the person that's coming around the corner, and graffiti writers take that very seriously. Number 4, don't blow up a spot. If you know a local chill wall, only let a limited number of your graffiti buddies know about it. Word travels fast, especially when there is good chill spots or spots in general to paint graffiti. But also in saying that, it's out of your control sometimes because other graffiti writers do discover chill spots and the word gets around anyway. So this one's a little bit out of your control, but try keep spots to yourself.
How'd you find it? This is where I come to cry. Cool.
Number 5, don't cover history. Just say you are deep in the drains or something and you see some old tag that can very well be from the early 80s. You do not by any means want to go over it. You'll be completely hated on and it'll make it hard for you to be a respected graffiti writer. I know of a guy who was seen doing a piece over an old piece in a drain canal, and because the paint on the wall was kind of flaking away, he thought it was okay to do a piece over it, despite the old original piece being easily seeable still. As soon as the guy left, someone put a big fat throwy over his piece strictly for the fact that he dissed some really old graffiti. Long story short, if you're not sure, don't cap it. Number 6, don't use your main name for trains. If you plan to paint graffiti on trains, do not by any means use your main graffiti name. Obviously, I can only speak of Australian train networks, but for some odd reason, painting train is the worst thing you can do within graffiti, of course in the eyes of the law. So ensuring that you don't use your main name when painting trains will relax the chances of you getting raided and caught so quickly. But if you do paint trains, you may have to expect a knock at the door at 6 AM in the near future.
Please search warrant, open the door now!
Number 7, don't take over spots. If you have a favorite place or a spot that you like to paint, leave some room for the rest of us. You don't need to put your piece next to your other 10 pieces that are already there. If you have a spot that you like to practice at least go over yourself from last time. That way you're not forcing other riders to go over you because the spot is overrun with your pieces. It's only fair that you leave some spots for other graffiti riders, even if you buff out some areas and say, hey, have at it guys, I have my own spot over here. Number 8, avoid painting over freight numbers. If you're in a place where you have access to freight trains and you can paint them, be sure to run a little bit of tape over the little numbers and codes that are along the side of the carriages. This will ensure that you don't get paint over any of the numbers and codes. And once you have finished painting, you can simply remove the tape so the letters can be seen again. Now the whole point of doing that is they tend to not buff or clean off the graffiti on freight trains, providing those codes and letters are visible and therefore readable. That is also why you may see some really old graffiti on freight trains, as they don't bother buffing them unless they have to in order to read the carriage numbers. And it also comes down to a kind of mutual respect graffiti writers have with train conductors. In fact, it's been known that a lot of freight trained conductors actually very much enjoy the graffiti. They just have to sadly report it when it's over the numbers. So avoid painting over the numbers and you should be golden. Number 9, take a photo before you paint. If you find a spot where a piece has been completely dissed, a bunch of tags over it, things like that, and you want a piece over it, make sure that you take a photo of that dissed piece, just in case the person who did that piece doesn't think that you've gone over them without reason. It's another respect thing, but it's good to have some evidence just in case that person gets upset, and it could avoid a lot of drama and a lot of your stuff getting capped. Number 10, if you find out that you're using the same graffiti name as a graffiti legend or a really well-known graffiti writer, you'll unfortunately have to change it. Unless, of course, you've been painting longer than that person and you can do better graffiti than they can. But chances are people might just think that you're trying to steal someone's name if it's a well-known name. Number 11, don't pull other writers into your beef. If you have beef with someone else, keep it between you and that writer. Don't throw other people under the bus in regards to getting your homies to fight your battles for you. It's kind of a weak thing to do at the same time as well, because if you've created that beef, you then got to wear that beef and you got to deal with that beef. Whoever smelt it, dealt it. Number 12, mark the spot. If you're unfinished with your piece and you've got to come back another day or later in the day, make sure you leave a little note that says you'll be back. Otherwise, someone's just going to go over that. Which brings me to number 13. Don't paint over something that says I'll be back. If you see an unfinished piece, don't let it be a spot that you can do a piece on, unless it's been like that for months and months. Then obviously that person will not be back. Number 14, if you're gonna rack, don't rack from small businesses. Obviously racking is frowned upon within any type of reason, and if you don't know what racking means, it's basically stealing from the shops. Predominantly known in the graffiti scene as racking, as back in the day, in the early times of the culture, you basically had to steal your graffiti supplies. These days you don't have to, but some people still like to rack their graffiti supplies. And if you do plan to do this, make sure you're not racking from small businesses or anything like that. Pick the big corporate places that have insurances and stuff that cater for theft each year. Small businesses are just losing out, and you're essentially probably just taking food off of someone's plate. Obviously, I don't condone any illegal behavior. And number 15, if you keep tagging up a spot and it keeps getting buffed, don't worry about it. This is going off a comment that was left on the last Unwritten Rules of Graffiti video from a username CrossFoxCoon. It says, Denver-based artist here. Another unwritten graffiti rule that you should mention is known as the broken window policy. This means that we don't tag locations that are clearly kept clean, tidy, or otherwise. Places that are obviously maintained by someone. On the other hand, locations that are not well kept and left overgrown, or basically in a lax condition, like broken windows, then we tag that up. So basically what this guy's saying is, don't bother tagging up places that seem to be kept really clean, because for one, you're just wasting your time, and for two, there's a time and place, isn't there?